Okay, hello. I'd like to welcome Beth. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you.
Thanks very much for having me.
You're very welcome. So you've got a few projects you're involved with, and you're gonna tell us about your adventures you've been having. So let's start with Against the Tides, then, if that's okay. So do you like
Sure. So Against the Tides, I was really, really fortunate. My last big project was filmed for a documentary, which is now been made into a beautiful film, which is due for digital release in the autumn. And it's called Against the Tides, and it's made by an amazing independent group of filmmakers. And it tracked my attempt to swim Ocean 7 in a single year. And Ocean 7 is a list of channels all around the world, which are kind of like, it's kind of seen as the ultimate for marathon swimmers and for open water swimmers. So things like the English Channel, Ireland to Scotland, Spain to Morocco, you know, they're all quite epic swims in themselves. And to date, no one has swum all 7 in a single year. And I really wanted to see if it was possible for me to do it.
Wow. That's awesome. Like I say, just the thought of tackling one is a big thing for some people, and you want to do 7 in 1 year. Can you remember the nugget, like what planted that seed? Why you wanted to do that? So nobody's done it. What made you think me?
Well, okay. So I mean, you have to kind of take a fair few steps back from the brink, really, from doing Ocean 7 in a single year. I mean, you know, I was the proverbial water baby. I would take my nappy off and climb in a bucket if it had water in. And I grew up sort of pre-digital camera era. And, you know, under 5, all the photographs are of me in a bucket or a stream or a puddle, or my parents kind of clinging to me when I'm trying to go over the edge of a boat or something. And, you know, I mean, I was 4 or 5 and you know, just, I remember, you know, being at the beach and just feeling compelled to go straight out and to keep going toward the horizon. And my mum, you know, sort of feared taking a family of 4 girls to the beach with me, just, you know, making a beeline for the horizon. And I don't recall a time where I couldn't swim. You know, apparently, yes, I sort of jumped into water when I was about 2 and made it to the surface and never looked back. And yeah, I was never a competitive swimmer. I was never a competitive person. We grew up in a very sort of anti-competitive kind of family, hippified farmers, and you know, we were never kind of given space to do sort of sport or competition. And when I was 10, I woke up one day and just was completely in pain and couldn't move my arms or my legs properly, and didn't really know why. And that kind of formed a pattern for the next few years. And it wasn't until I was 17 where I was actually formally diagnosed with ME. And by that stage, I was in a wheelchair. So my whole adolescence had been completely wiped out with illness. And I'd learned to distrust my body. I'd learned to hate my body. You know, I fought against my body. So I'd had sort of loads of mental health issues, and, you know, really did sort of fight being stuck in my body. And it was only when I was able to float in water that I felt the inflammation recede, and it was a space where I could be in my body without hating it. So, you know, even when I was really, really ill, I remember my mum would sort of wheel the wheelchair out of our house, and we had this sort of little Victorian fish pond on our farm that my dad had lined with plastic and filled from the stream. And she basically sort of tipped me in so I could float, you know, in our swimming pool, which, you know, was less than 5 meters long. It was basically just this pond. But I could float in the water, and, you know, I was in it in March and I was still in it in November, and, you know, I didn't swim at all. I just floated and felt better. So water became the place of solace for me. You know, when I was at my most ill, at my most desperate, water was something that I turned to, and that's what really stuck with me when I started to get better and, started to piece together times where I wasn't so fatigued. But, from the age of 17, it took until I was about 26 before I could actually piece together and say that I was healthy. I wasn't, I didn't feel stable, but I was, starting to be healthy. And when I turned 30, I looked back on my life, as you do when you turn 30, what have I done with my life?
Yeah.
And realised that I'd made this bucket list when I was in the wheelchair, the kind of, if I ever make it out of here alive, I will promise myself that I'll do. And I had done a lot of the things on my bucket list in the 4 years where I've been well, except swim to France. And that was a thing that had been with me the longest. I had just always wanted to know what it was like. Is it possible for someone like me to do, who doesn't have a sporty background, who isn't born to adventure, who doesn't have wealthy parents, something like that? To me, it was, you had to be in part of this elite that could even attempt to do it. And so there I was at 30, still not really trusting my body, but desperate to kind of test myself, to prove to myself that I was over ME. And so I challenged myself to try to swim to France, and kind of fell in love with the whole process of the training, and the kind of the possibility, the wondering, is it possible for me to do something so big and so crazy? And I thought it would be the most hellish experience. Everyone told me it would be harrowing. Everyone told me that it would be really I would hate doing it but love having done it. And actually, I loved it. I had a beautifully calm day. And to stand on the shore in the middle of the night in nothing but my swimming costume and hat and goggles, I'd already felt like a winner, because I had made it safely to that point. I hadn't gotten ill doing the training. I'd given myself permission to do something extreme. And so to get into the water felt nothing like a sort of shore. It was a release, and I felt privileged, and I felt so blessed and grateful to be able to do it at all. So swimming to France was this kind of cathartic space that I could pour myself, this newfound sort of starting to be confident in myself, and reached the other side, and was really quite taken aback that it hadn't been horrible. And completely hooked. So immediately I wanted to do another channel, and it became this, what else can I learn about myself on the way?
That's brilliant. I suppose there's three kind of nuggets for me kind of came out with that, and it's just like, so the water, the freedom it gave you when you're in pain, just how wonderful water is for your body and your soul, and just what you just at that time. But then the fact that you see a water baby not being able to, you can't remember not swimming, and just always swimming. I mean, they say like learning to swim should be as important as learning to walk, and it sounds like you epitomise that. Of you were just at one with water from being so little, and that's so inspiring. But then just the fact you weren't an athlete either, and you didn't even see yourself as an athlete, and you weren't competitive, and I think that's so important too, because so many people, let's say it's about racing, and at school, if you're not the fastest, if you're not winning the races at school, then therefore you're not sporty. And it's just so important. So there's so many different ways you can challenge yourself and each other and inspire each other, and it's not always about racing. It's that's inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's for me, that's become the biggest thing. So Ocean 7 came out of, I loved doing the English Channel, so I wanted to swim again, and I'd been lucky enough that when I was recovering from ME, I ended up moving myself to Hawaii and studying Indigenous healthcare over there, like you do. And that's where I fell in love with. That's where I fell in love with sea swimming. Because I mean, God, in Hawaii is like 150-foot visibility, and you're swimming with pods of dolphins, and you can hear whale song when they come past. And, it was just such an incredible experience. So I wanted to swim a channel over there, and I ended up swimming between Molokai and Oahu, and was only the 28th person, the first British woman to ever swim it. And that was when I heard about Ocean 7, this list of channels around the world that people had only just started to complete when I swam that. And for me, it was kind of, I'm not interested in a tick box thing, but these swims, and I love travel and I love swimming, and to kind of give myself a kind of a reason to move forward in my life. For me, it wasn't about ticking them all off the list. I needed to find a reason that it resonated with me, because the swims that I had done, the English Channel and the Molokai Channel, although they're epic and they are significant on a world stage as far as, you know, oh yes, I've swum it in so fast, or, you know, it's so far. For me, they were significant for me personally. And it was this real personal quest. And for me, that word significance has become real key. So I looked at Ocean 7 and went, actually, I'm not interested in just doing the 7 in a year. For me, my life has been about recovery and about challenging what it means to recover. And that's why I wanted to try and do them all in a year, was can I recover from one after another after another? Because I still didn't trust that, I still hadn't found my edge. I still haven't gauged what ME is and why it comes into my life every now and then. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do Ocean 7 in a year, was to test my skills of recovery, to test whether I could make my body recover and do it again, recover and do it again. So yeah, for me, it was this real kind of personal significance. And now at the other side of it, you know, people expect me to do, you know, epic big swims. And actually, I was never caught with that bit. I don't want to see how far I can swim, because, you know, the only place you're going to do is swim until you die. And I'm so not interested in that. I like life. You know, for me, it's this significance. And so, you know, I love what you do of gauging sort of safety and teaching people to swim, because the first swim is significant. The first time you swim out of your depth is significant. The first time you swim 100 meters is just as significant as making it to France. You know, it really is. And you know, those steps along the way and engaging other people. My favorite thing is to actually take people who aren't confident in the water and to help them. And, you know, they put their confidence in me because they know I'll save them, and to actually see them swim for the first time out of their depth and enjoy it and not be fearful. And that's the most significant swim for me, is sharing it with somebody else and you know, stretching other people's horizons.
Yeah, one of my favorite moments is when you're teaching kids. I'm so proud, like I said, that first moment when the kids swim, but then I love looking at the parents' faces too, because the parents are just like, ah, wow. And it is such a weird thing, because I always say to the kids, like, I mean, when you stick your hand in water, but then don't worry, it'll hold your body. And it's just one of the most unique things we have in this world, isn't it? Like, don't worry, like you say, you can float, it'll hold you, but yet, you know, you can walk through it. But yeah, no, that's really special. I think that's really interesting too, like you say. So you didn't set off to go, right, I'm going to do all 7. It was a process, it evolved, and it's like I say, it was all part of you and your life and your journey. And I think that's interesting too. It's
it was an adventure, you know, because I mean, adventure to me, that you don't have this sort of set, you have a goal where you're aiming to, but that's not what adventure is. Adventure is what happens on the way. And, you know, anytime you get in the water, it's an adventure. You know, when you're face down in the water, you've got this kind of mindset of, you know, you're dealing with yourself and you don't know what you're going to confront, and you've got to be resourceful. And yeah, it's amazing to be able to do that. And water is definitely where I feel, you know, that's my kind of forum. But yeah, no, it's definitely not distance. And I'm really pleased that my little boy, who was kind of the catalyst of made me kind of step up to the plate when I turned 30 and became a single mum. You know, he was, I wanted to show him that you could do anything. And that's, you know, what really kind of made me bite the bullet and do the scariest thing on my bucket list. And when I finished Ocean 7, he was now 8 and he's autistic. So he has his own challenges and can't do normal in a lot of ways. And so I said to him, look, you know, you can choose our adventures for a while. You know, I've led you around the world and you've been amazing. What would you like to do? And, you know, without pausing, he said, Mummy, we're going to go to Alaska to go in the winter to stay in a yurt. I'm like, oh God, all right. So, you know, we did. And then his next mission, he wanted me to jump in an icy hole. That's what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to swim in ice. So, you know, I'm not into the cold particularly.
But different to Hawaii.
You know. But yeah, we did. Last year we went to Austria. We went to the Hintertux Glacier, and you can hike these amazing natural tunnels inside the glacier. And there was this tunnel, it's like about 8 foot, this beautiful circular tunnel, about 8 foot round, that's half full of water. That you sort of, you know, you're walking down and you get to this edge where you sort of can climb down. And I swam 30 meters below the surface of this glacier in this most amazing tunnel of water. It was just incredible. It was absolutely epic. And, you know, I thought it'd be something that would push me to the point of, God, am I going to die? Is this possible? The water was 0 degrees. Is it possible to swim in 0-degree water? Is it possible for me? And yes, it totally is. So his next mission, we're supposed to be going to the Arctic, to Svalbard, deep in the Arctic Circle, to have an adventure up there, which will involve me getting in water at some point.
I like the way he keeps getting you to do stuff. His choices is you've got.
Well, he loves the snow, but he thinks it's an idiotic thing to get in the cold water. So actually, he's not so far behind. I mean, if we're at the beach in the middle of winter, I'll be there and I will strip down to my swimming costume. He thinks that's stupid, but he will think nothing of running in fully clothed to play with the water, and he'll be cold long after I am because he's in wet clothes. But it's for him, it's the act of putting your swimming costume on is completely crazy. But playing in the water, that's not crazy.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's next then? Are you working? Have you got things planned post lockdown? Are you managing to swim at the moment, or what's any new projects you're working on?
I haven't been to the beach yet. I haven't been to the beach since the winter. I've been staying away, through lockdown because I don't live right by the coast. I'm a good hour away from a decent swim beach, and A, lockdown, staying close to home, and then B, because there were so many people who were going when we started to be able to travel. It was so sunny. So for me personally, I wanted to stay away to not burden my beautiful spots. And I'm now looking at starting to go back to doing beach cleans, and I'm heading to the coast this week for the first time, which I'm really excited about. I have been going up. We've got a lake quite local to here, Wimbleball. I have been going up just in the last sort of 10 days. To start back to doing swim. But actually, one of the things that's been really interesting during lockdown is, yes, I have been cut off from what I love, but finding why I loved it. And I think that's really important. There have been a lot of people sort of posting on social media saying, they're losing their mental health because they can't swim. And, whilst swimming does do a lot for your mental health, I think it's really important that we look at the drives, where the mental health aspects come from. So I have found, for me, it's been immersion, community has really helped me through the time. I've been helping out in my village, and that's given me a lot of the same feeling that I would have gotten having been in the water. So I've been finding other ways to be me that don't necessarily include water, which I think is really important. That we don't get caught up in things that we sort of sell ourselves at, that, I'm only me because I swim 4 times a week. Or if you can't swim 4 times a week, does that mean you're not you? No, absolutely not. You just have to find, other things that give you that joy. And for me, yes, absolutely. For me, it's the sea more than water. I have not missed swimming. I've missed the sea, which has been really interesting to find out.
That is interesting. See, I've been really missing the feeling of water, just the feeling of exercising in the water. For me, it's like, do other stuff, like say exercise, but it's interesting. I've not thought about that till you just said it then. I was like, actually no, it's not my mental health, it's just that feeling of diving in the water and feeling it flow across your skin. You don't get that feeling like with anything else. So
no. And for me, I've been in the lake, so yes, I've had the feeling of the cool, which there is nothing like it for me. Sort of letting go, and it's that kind of delicious release. So, you have to concentrate on, your breathing and staying calm, but at the same time, letting go and letting your body take control. But I really noticed that the lake didn't give me what the sea does, which is that kind of communion of having to listen to what the water's doing with the waves and the tide, and, a whole body being a sense organ of reading what's going on. So that's what I'm looking forward to next week is kind of slipping into that headspace of my whole body having to listen, which I love.
Interesting. So Against the Tides, going back to that, you said that's coming out in the autumn, and we've got the trailer to show of that, so that'll be exciting. Can't wait to watch that. And we've got another film we're going to show as well, so would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Raising Human Vibration. So it was a group of guys called the Nordic Giants, who do sort of performance music and video and film. And they contacted me right at the really sort of early stages of my sort of putting together Ocean 7. And they were putting together a series of different films all about raising human vibration, which, you know, for them, the key was just telling stories that are all about hope and all about, you know, looking forwards, you know, whether it's environmentalism or whether it's, you know, for me, you know, swimming. For them, they just wanted to collect a different range of stories. And yeah, for me, inspiring other people to believe in themselves, to relate to their environment, to let go and to be immersed in whatever it is that they choose to do. You know, it's really key now for me to look at what I've done. And I have been so blessed to have done, you know, epic swims. And, you know, now I've got world records behind my back. You know, I'm the first woman to do certain things. That's lovely. That's great. But actually that gives me the chance to this sort of thing, to say, you know, if you are somebody who is afraid of whatever it is that you're afraid of, to take the chance to look at with a childlike sense of wonder, to be curious and to play with the edges of where you're comfortable, and to stretch your comfort zone gently, rather than feeling like I've got to go and swim the channel as well because Beth said that's the way to do it. It's not about that at all. It's actually about playing with your comfort zone and just gently stretching it and yeah, letting your childlike sense of wonder lead you to put your foot in the water. You don't have to jump in, just play with the feel of water. If, you know, play with the feel of standing up in front of somebody to speak for the first time, you know, speak in front of a mirror, speak in front of this, do this, you know, this used to terrify me, talking to people.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, that's become a real sense of purpose now, is to help people engage. You know, if I love it when people now get in touch with me to say, you know, I've got ME, what can I do to help myself feel better? Or I'm afraid of getting in water, you know, can we meet at the beach and can you talk to me about how to start not being afraid? That's now what I love doing.
That's awesome. I think the key thing there is, for me, what you've just said is it's gently stretching your comfort zone, because I'm personally guilty of going, right, big goal, big mission, and then after day one I've failed, and you're like, right, that didn't work, and then you don't make any progress. I'm so guilty of doing that. So like you say, it's just little things every day. You know, if you just change little thing every day, 1% a day, before you know it, it's big things have changed. So that's
absolutely. And I think we also forget to play. You know, we get so serious about, I must be a better person, or, you know, bigger, better, faster, more, the sort of driven progress and the competitive spirit that we've all been sold in the Western world. You know, we forget to play. And, you know, people often ask me what my training regime looked like for swimming the channel, and actually it looked like playing in the water. It really did. You know, because, you know, spending 6 hours in the water, you know, yes, I did do stroke improvement, but actually most of my training was just playing about in the water. You know, literally mucking about with my son tied, you know, like he was in a dinghy and I'd board leash him to my ankle and off I would go, and, you know, playing. He'd have a water pistol and we'd be mucking about and I'd be diving down, and that to me is a valid training, because I'm having to move. I'm moving in, you know, more ways than just straight front crawl, and I'm spending the time in the water. But I never lost that. I never got bored. I never hated swimming, because it was playing. And so I never felt the drudgery of training.
I've never heard of that. That's definitely inspiring, because like I say, you think a training plan and it's all mapped out and you've got to do X amount of time doing this and you've got to speed that, and like I say, it's just daunting. You just think, oh, I can't do that. So and you got to fun doing it as well. So that's
absolutely. Well, my son learnt to count by sitting on my back while I did press ups. You know, so again, training never felt a drudgery, because we were mucking about. And, you know, kids love to be held and carried. So we'd stomp around and I'd have him on my shoulders and, you know, do squats. You can make it fun. You know, it doesn't have to be this, you know, very sort of dogmatic driving yourself into the ground. You know, and I really do think that, you know, we do tend to get caught because we compare to others and we compare to time. You know, we get given a training program that, you know, 5 days a week I've got to do 4 hours a day. It's like, well, I'm never gonna manage that. So obviously I'm not a person who can do that. Whereas, you know, if we kind of go, let's see what I can get out of it, or how can I make the 5 hours fun? you know, then it becomes a part of your life rather than this something that you have to do that's extra and it's hard and is not pleasant.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, certainly that's when I've been my fittest and healthiest, is so when you're just active, as they're doing something that you enjoy. Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time. That's been certainly very inspirational for me, and such a great story, definitely. And we look forward to watching Against the Tides, and I'm sure everybody will be thankful. We're going to try and have Facebook comments and stuff and some interactions. So yeah.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much for your time, and we will see you again, hopefully.